Welcome back to Bad Things in History, where we invite constructive criticism. New York was one of the original 13 colonies. It was the 11th state to join the newly formed United States. And it has also experienced its fair share of horrible events. Fires, riots, shootings, and accidents were all too common for much of New York's history. Today, we are going to look at several troubling events that are perhaps not well known today. Let's begin with the worst fire in the state's history. Great Fire of New York. New York City has been the largest city in the United States since 1790. In 1825, when the Erie Canal was completed, the city's financial prosperity increased significantly. The canal connected the Atlantic Ocean to the Hudson River at Albany. From there, ships could travel to Lake Erie. Over the next decade, people and commerce flocked to the growing metropolis. Although the sudden growth of New York City created wealth, it also increased anxiety. The mayor and many on the council served on the boards of insurance companies. The insurance companies were extremely worried. The city did not have a reliable water supply. Most of the buildings were made of wood. The insurance companies and the city's leaders knew that one bad fire could bankrupt the entire industry. They tried to address the problem by hiring more firefighters and purchasing more equipment for them. It wasn't enough. In the summer and fall of 1835, numerous fires broke out all over the city. The fires were extinguished, but by winter, much of New York City's water supplies were exhausted. On the evening of December 16, 1835, a warehouse caught on fire. The fire was spreading slowly, but then gale-force winds arrived and caused flames to spread more quickly. The burning buildings were so bright that some people reported seeing it 80 miles away in Philadelphia. Firefighters tried to use water from nearby rivers to extinguish the fires. Unfortunately, the rivers were frozen. They drilled into the ice to reach the water below, however, it froze again around the hoses. Attempts to fight the flames kept failing due to lack of water. City leaders and firefighters decided to try another strategy to stop the fire from spreading. They did this by demolishing buildings around the flames. At first, the city didn't have enough gunpowder to remove the buildings, but late in the evening a detachment of U.S. Marines arrived and began destroying them. A published account of the fire in History of the City of New York described the event. Many of the stores destroyed in the fire were new, with iron shutters and doors and copper roofs. When they burned, witnesses described appearance of immense iron furnaces in full blast. The heat at times melted the copper roofing, and the liquid ran off in great drops. A gale blew towards the East River. Wall after wall was heard tumbling like an avalanche. Fiery tongues of flame leapt from roof and windows along whole streets, and seemed to be making angry dashes at each other. The water of the bay looked like a vast sea of blood. The fire engulfed about 17 city blocks. Up to 700 buildings were destroyed. An investigation found that a gas pipe burst. Then a coal stove ignited the gas, which in turn started the fire. It was an accident, so nobody was blamed. However, when the city was rebuilt, the new structures were built of brick and stone. New York City Draft Riots. The state of New York was very prosperous in the mid-19th century. Its main export was cotton, which arrived daily from southern states. Textile mills also processed the cotton and turned it into other products. Although New York didn't enslave black residents, that didn't stop feelings of racism and hatred from festering. Starting in the 1850s, black laborers started competing with white workers for jobs. The unemployed white workers then blamed black workers for their misfortune. As the Civil War approached, many in New York City were not supportive of the Union cause. In 1861, the Democratic mayor, Fernando Wood, even called on council members to declare the city's independence so that it could support the Southern cause. The political landscape changed quickly after the war started. In January 1863, Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which freed slaves in southern states. This alarmed white workers in New York City, who feared that slaves would escape from the South and take their jobs. Then, in March 1863, Congress passed the Enrollment Act. It allowed the military to draft citizens into service. It did not treat everyone equally. African Americans were exempt from the draft as they were not considered to be citizens. Also, someone who was wealthy could just purchase a substitute to serve in their place or just pay a fee to escape the draft altogether. A lottery was used to determine who would be forced into military service. The first drawing was held on July 11, 1863. The response in New York City wasn't violent on that day, but Buffalo and several other cities descended into riots. The second drawing happened on July 13, 1863. Around 10 a.m., an angry crowd of several hundred people appeared. They found the building where the lottery was going to take place. Then the mob started throwing rocks through the windows. After that, they set the building on fire. When the fire department showed up, the crowd destroyed their equipment and killed their horses. Finally, to prevent the rest of the city from knowing what happened, telegraph lines were cut. Since the military was busy fighting the Confederate Army, the police department was the only force that could respond. The police superintendent, John Kennedy, decided to have a look at what was going on. Someone in the crowd recognized him. He was beaten beyond recognition, though he survived the experience. The size of the mob kept increasing, as did the amount of violence. At one point, they decided to destroy the New York Times office. The founder of the newspaper, Henry Jarvis Raymond, had placed Gatling guns on the roof in anticipation. The crowd decided to move on to another target. Given that much of the white working class held deeply racist beliefs, it didn't take long for mobs to start attacking black people. In one case, a mob of 400 beat a black man with clubs, then with rocks. Then they hanged him from a tree and set him on fire. The angry mob even attacked the colored orphan asylum, which housed 233 children. Thousands of people poured into the building, taking any food or supplies that were found. Then the building was set on fire. The police were able to hold back the mob long enough for the orphans to escape. Order was restored on July 16th, when troops finally arrived. Nobody knows how many people died during the riots. Historian James M. McPherson thinks perhaps 120 were killed. As many as 2,000 were wounded during the event. The property damage was around $17 million, which would be worth about $85 million today. The draft resumed on August 19th. Triangle Shirtwaist Factory Fire. The Triangle Waste Company owned a factory in the Greenwich Village neighborhood of New York City. It was located on the 8th, 9th, and 10th floors of the building. In the early 1900s, the factory employed about 500 people. They were mostly Italian and Jewish women who recently immigrated to the United States. These women worked 6 days every week. They put in 52 hours and received at most $12 per week. That would be worth about $327 today. The laborers spent their days creating women's blouses. As the ladies worked to create articles of clothing, there was fabric left over. They would toss the unused materials into a box underneath the table. On the afternoon of March 25, 1911, just 20 minutes before the workday ended, one of these boxes caught on fire. Most people in the building had no idea what was happening until they saw smoke and flames. There were exits which would have allowed the women to escape. One of the stairways was blocked by fire. The other was behind a locked door. The owners of the factory locked the women into the building so that they could be searched before leaving for the day. Because of this, the fire trapped most of them. Some of the lucky employees found their way to the roof. Others squeezed into the elevator and made it to the ground level. About 20 people climbed out of a window and onto the fire escape. It collapsed under their weight, dropping them to the pavement below. All of those who fell ultimately died. As the flames began to engulf the top stories of the building, people began jumping to their deaths rather than waiting to burn. 2 elevator operators kept going up through the fire and back down until they were no longer able to operate the device. Heat began to cause the elevator to fail. But then victims opened the elevator doors and jumped into the shaft. Bodies started hitting the top of the elevator cars. Louis Waldman, a socialist politician, described the scene years later. The 8th, 9th, and 10th stories of the building were now an enormous, roaring cornice of flames. Word had spread through the east side by some magic of terror that the plant of the Triangle Waste Company was on fire and that several hundred workers were trapped. Horrified and helpless, the crowds, I among them, looked up at the burning building, saw girl after girl appear at the reddened windows, pause for a terrified moment, and then leap to the pavement below to land as mangled, bloody pulp. This went on for what seemed a ghastly eternity. Occasionally, a girl who had hesitated too long was licked by pursuing flames and, screaming with clothing and hair ablaze, plunged like a living torch to the street. Life nets held by the firemen were torn by the impact of the falling bodies. The emotions of the crowd were indescribable. Women were hysterical. Scores fainted. Men wept as, in paroxysms of frenzy, they hurled themselves against the police lines. It is estimated that 146 people died in the fire. The owners of the factory were charged with manslaughter. They were acquitted, but were held financially responsible in a civil trial. After an investigation, several new regulations were enacted to try and prevent fires in the future. Most importantly, factory owners could no longer lock employees into the building. Ethan Allen boating accident. Tourists love to visit Lake George, especially in the fall. On the afternoon of October 2, 2005, 47 visitors boarded the Ethan Allen. It was a 40-foot-long tour boat with glass all around it. Most of the tourists were senior citizens from Michigan. A few had come from Ohio. The group of passengers expected to spend part of their day looking at fall colors along the lake. The trip was only supposed to last an hour. Not long into the adventure, the boat tilted hard to its port side, then capsized. It sank to the bottom of the lake. The passengers were not wearing life preservers. People on the shore began trying to rescue the survivors. Despite their best efforts, 20 of them drowned. An investigation found that a series of bad decisions led to the tragedy. The U.S. Coast Guard originally certified the Ethan Allen as being capable of carrying 47 passengers. However, modifications were made over the years, which caused the boat to become top-heavy. The raised center of gravity meant that it was no longer safe to carry this many passengers, but the boat was never inspected again. The accident happened because of a large wave that hit the vessel. Since it was top-heavy and had too many passengers on one side, it tipped over and filled with water. The captain of the boat was charged with criminal negligence. He pled guilty and paid a fine. The families of the victims joined a class action lawsuit against the company that owned Ethan Allen. The owners of the boat had purchased an insurance policy to help cover disasters, but that policy was found to be fraudulent. An attempt was made to sue the state of New York. However, a court decided the government had immunity. Binghamton Shooting. The American Civic Association is an association located in Binghamton, New York. It provides services to immigrants such as English language classes. Jeverly Wong was originally from Vietnam. His family migrated to the United States in the late 1980s. He became a naturalized citizen in 1995. However, Wong's English was never particularly good. Those who knew him said he felt self-conscious about it. Wong felt like Americans didn't respect him because of his inability to speak English. As he complained to those who could understand him, Jeverly Wong also kept purchasing guns. Wong had taken English classes at the American Civic Association but then stopped attending. He returned on the morning of April 3, 2009. Wong blocked the back door of the building with his vehicle. He was wearing a bulletproof vest and carrying a semi-automatic pistol as he walked around to the front of the building, then entered through the front door. He appeared in the front lobby and began shooting at the receptionists. He killed one instantly and injured the other. She played dead until Wong moved on, then she called 911. Wong then entered a classroom and began firing. Out of the 16 students in the room, the bullets hit 13 of them. Then he took several more as hostages. The police arrived within minutes of the 911 call. Jeverly Wong heard the sirens, then put the pistol to his head and pulled the trigger. In just 3 minutes, he had killed 13 people and critically wounded 4 more. Several days after the shooting, a news station in Syracuse, New York, received an envelope. It was sent by Wong and contained a letter. It was full of paranoid ramblings and didn't explain his actions at all. Nobody really knows why he walked into a building and killed those people. The march of history continues, and New York's contributions to human suffering will too. Be sure to subscribe, or you might spend your life blissfully unaware of the emotional torture that surrounds you. If any of these horrible events captured your attention, then let us know what you think in the comments below. Your praise, as well as your criticism, helps us improve. If you really want to improve things around here, consider providing more direct support by becoming a patron. If you only want to reward us for episodes you enjoy, then we also take one-time donations. Look for links in the video description. Thank you for watching Bad Things in History.